We're going to get a little deeper now on a similar topic. Oksana, can you come join us up here? Oksana is also part of this pharma community. She's with a great partner of ours, V7. Feel free to continue the introduction. Welcome to the panel. Yes, you guys stay in touch for sure.
Thank you.
But that was great, David. So this great introduction. The time now is so great because change is the one constant, and having a no-code platform lets you roll with those changes. That's fun to hear. So I have a few more questions now to get different perspectives from our panel here. We're going to talk more about how CRM is used in the pharmaceutical industry and life sciences. So I'm just going to toss some questions out there. I'll encourage you guys, as you have more questions, keep them coming. This is a fun conversation here. So I'll throw this one out there. How is CRM different for life sciences than other industries? And that's a fun thing about my job, is I do get to talk with people in different industries and talk about different workflows, and I find that real enjoyable. Life sciences, what's unique about that in CRM?
Want me to take it first?
Yeah, you can start.
Lead us off, David.
So, from my previous, I didn't start in life sciences in pharma, right? I started from a different direction. As I came to know life sciences, I came to understand that much of life sciences sales is not traditional opportunity management and pipeline management and looking for how many dollars did you close, right? It's about how many scripts did you influence by providers, by doctors. It's how many formularies of hospitals or networks did you get on, right? These are not activities that are measured in the standard software. The metrics and the activities are entirely different than what you do, Mike, right? And so a lot of what happens in life sciences is that the reps are trying to get meetings, and they are measured on qualified types of meetings, right, that meet certain types of criteria, and then they are also compensated based on scripts that are written in their territories or the product lines, right? But matching up those scripts to a sales rep, that's a correlation. That's not a causation. So figuring out, matching the impact of the sales rep to the generation of revenue is more difficult in this industry than any other one that I've seen.
So before we get to Oksana there, so I appreciate in life sciences, they're tracking different metrics and they have different calculations. And so for a no-code platform to be able to adapt itself to different industries, I see how there are some unique aspects in the life science. Can you add to that, Oksana? What are some other unique differences in life science for CRM?
Well, I think now, especially with the rise of the digital technologies, which boosted like 2 years ago, like transforming the industry like completely, I think now the role of the rep changed dramatically. And just before that, when it was just face-to-face, especially in the countries in Europe, the rep was like a talking iPad that would just present something and just, add some words to that. But now the rep is becoming an orchestrator of the different channels. And when I saw David's slides was the sales rep with a link to service and to marketing, that's actually where the rep is sitting now, and the systems and technology needs to support him. So he has to be aware of whatever is happening in the organization to the specific pharmacy or to the specific physician. And he has to know not just what he has to deliver, but what the marketing delivers, because of that information fatigue and a little bit maybe too much of the digital technologies right now that are bombarding the HCP through all of the channels. And there is also Amazon and Netflix and whoever else are like bombarding the inboxes. The rep has to be relevant as never. And
so much information coming from all different directions that's always getting updated.
I want to build, as I was listening to Oksana, it triggered, here's another difference. You've got to think about what's the life of the med rep, right? What are they doing, and what do they need at any given moment in terms of information to be efficient and effective? Think of a med rep. Med reps are dealing with doctors. My best man at my wedding was a doctor, so I'm allowed to say doctors are prima donnas. Right? And so, and they are in a very dynamic world that they're working in, right? in terms of their schedules. So if you're a med rep, and I'm going to visit Andy at 2 p.m. at his clinic, I get there at 2 p.m., and I find that Andy's not going to be able to meet with me until 4 p.m. because of a patient situation that's come up, right? Well, I've driven there, I've invested time, I can't lose my afternoon. I need to be able to quickly, immediately pull up, they're going to have their laptop or their iPad, right? I need to be able to search geographically all the HCPs, healthcare providers, that have the medical specialty that I cover, right? That are in my geography, and I need to know, remember doctors are always rotating, right? I need to know which office they're in today, Friday afternoon, right? That is not easy to do, but it is the kind of solution that is available with a platform like Creatio.
Absolutely, wow. So to dive deeper into, we talked about change is constant, the right time for no code. Let's talk about the differences from your observations before the pandemic versus post-pandemic. What changes has that brought to CRM, to life science industry? Compare and contrast if you, Oksana, can you start off? What's the differences?
The first difference that we saw, of course, is that disruption of digital. Like, it transformed the industry. Like, pharma has not been doing that great with digitalization and with the adoption of the new tech in the past years. And I've been in the industry for 8 years now.
Okay.
And we always heard like, oh no, this doctor doesn't have the email, or that would not work. But now what we see is that it's a shift between in-person communication to digital. It's not as much like, face-to-face right now. It's all remote. It's all a mix of different channels. And what we saw is the channels changed, but the data that David mentioned, it all stays the same. They still want to measure the prescriptions, the impact of the sales presentations. But I think the difference is also about how how doctors demand for more personalizations right now. So what they say is that now, like, if a doctor is a writer already, he needs to know specific information like the safety, for example, and the patient support programs, something like that. And if the person is not a writer right now, what he needs to know is the mode of action or something like that. And he wants to get this specific information and not the other ones. He's not interested in all of that mass emailing and different things.
I agree with all of that. And by the way, I've looked. Oksana, would your organization have solutions that help with that? I think so.
Thank you. It's a great segue.
I'm going to hit a different topic, a theme in the impact of the pandemic. It used to be, and it might still be, it used to be very lucrative to be a pharma med rep. That was a good job to have. And what happened with the pandemic, it at least accelerated a shift, a confrontation by the pharma companies themselves of, are we getting what we're paying for from the expensive med reps? Right? Makes sense, right? And the changes that Oksana was just talking about, that a lot of what the med rep was doing was just pitching PowerPoint, can be done through digital channels now, right? So what we're seeing is a lot of the pharma companies saying, we don't need the traditional model anymore. We don't need the traditional rep. And they're beginning to shed them. And as they shed them, one of the big implications is they're moving to contracted sales or independent reps, right? And the challenge there is that if you have independent or contracted reps, they're not part of your own organization, BMS, Abbott, whomever, right? Well, in this industry, everything that the reps say, this is another difference from other industries, is anything your rep says and does can potentially create a legal risk for you, legal exposure, right? Well, if all of a sudden you're using more contracted or independent reps, you have less control over these individuals. And if you have less control over them, how can you still have confidence that they are staying compliant and on message and within the guardrails that they have to stay, it's much tougher. There's only one way that you can mitigate that risk, and it's by having better solutions for your now contracted reps than anybody has gotten from their implementations of Salesforce or Viva or OCE. Right? There needs to be better in the real world.
Wow, so lots of guardrails and they're changing.
There's more orchestration. It's more of turning into a distributed team instead of a top-down team.
Interesting. Good observation. Wow. So let's go a little deeper now. As we talk about Creatio as a CRM, we all know the heart of our CRM is a BPM engine. We love to talk about automating business processes. That means different things to different people. It'd be fun to hear some examples. Let's hear some examples about how in life science we can automate specific business processes to solve these challenges. What can we automate in Creatio?
If I may step in,
Please.
just real quick. So I think the best cases that I could think of is how you can embed a rep into your digital campaign. So what I mean by that is how actually the rep can trigger the email marketing automation based on what he discussed with the doctor at a point of need. And he should be able also to select the topic, the problem, or anything that he addressed, and be able to launch that campaign like right now, because tomorrow it will be too late. And so I think one of the best parts of what we did so far was actually enabling the rep to do so, and making sure that pharma companies have actually enough of personalized and dynamic content to support all those interactions.
So automated dynamic content based on their circumstance to be speedy and efficient. That sounds awesome. So that's a great example.
I'm going to use an example that I mentioned earlier in a previous session, but I'm going to share the example in a little bit of a different way this time. So some repeat, but some new. And it's not about life sciences companies selling what they offer to providers. It's the actual point of provision of care. Okay? How can low code that is so good at orchestrating teams and workflow make a difference? And so this is going to be from the world of orchestrated services when I was at the Department of Health in Maryland. And one of the problems I got assigned was a lingering problem for literally 20 or 30 years. Think of individuals that are justice involved, right? They're in front of the courts. And a large portion, an unfortunate portion of those that are in that situation are evidencing either mental illness and therefore not fit to stand trial, and or substance use disorders, right? Addictions. And these individuals, either before standing before the court or before serving their sentences, they need services. Right? Now, the problem was that the judges were looking at the situation and they were ordering these services from the state of Maryland and the Department of Health. And the amount of time, the cycle time from the issue ordered to the placement in service was 80 to 120 days. This was in violation of statute, state constitution, and human rights, right? To sit that long in a cell when you were a needy individual. So some other attempts were made. They finally assigned the IT guy to go fix this problem. Why was the IT guy able to fix the problem in 90 days? Because the IT guy brought in a platform that brought together the judiciary, the department in the executive branch, and the providers, whether they were owned mental hospitals or community service providers, so that we were no longer working on the basis of paper, orders sent through the mail, through the postal service, right? Emails and phone calls. We were all on one coordinated database. And what I didn't get a chance to mention earlier is we were able to see the cycle times. In Creatio, it's dynamic cases. We knew who was lagging. We could swing resources to David's been waiting for 30 days. Why is it? And we could have a coordinated response to accelerate him instead of having him languish. So we got, in 90 days, we implemented, and within 30 days after that, we had the average wait times, depending on the type of service, down to 15 to 25 days. I mean, that's the power of these platforms that we all know and are taken into the marketplace.
So David, that's a great story. You consolidated onto one platform. You had analytics to give you reports of data. What's an example of an automation?
Everything from receiving the court order to creating it, which was converted to a case. So it's all case management across multiple stakeholders. Department of Health ended up paying for this and running this. So originating from the courts, create a case, communications out to the either our own hospitals across the state or to the community-based providers for addiction services, right? Emails with the case information, not being retyped, so no inefficiency, and more important, no mistakes in translating the case. Being able to measure at each stage of the way how many days we've been sitting there. There was another wrinkle, which is justice involved, so our Department of Corrections needed to know as well, right? Because they had to coordinate the vehicles for moving an individual from one place to another. We brought them in.
So lots of triggers along the process to automate communications for dynamic reasons to eliminate manual work. Otherwise, someone would have had to manually send that.
Yeah, with PDFs generally, but at least everybody was sharing the same PDF that said this David's assessment and conditions are this, that, and the others. Everybody got to see it, right? No, so those are
cool. No,
yeah.
I like creating a consistent process. Those automations eliminate different people sending different messages for different reasons. Cool. Any other examples? Those are good ones. I love talking automation. But I'll tell you. Think about it. I have one more question, and then I'll open it up to you guys. If you have any additional questions for the panel here, we'll turn you loose on them. But I am curious. This is maybe a softball question, or I'm curious to your opinion, because if no code is such a game changer, right? We're all big fans of no code, right? We're soaking it up. We're loving it. If no code is so great and it's a life game changer, why aren't? How come not all life science companies are adopting to this game of no code? Game changer to this game.
Yes, I will play a little bit with the words, and because it's all about change management. Some of the companies just are not ready to change. They want to change. They're comfortable with whatever they are, even though it's not like super comfortable, but they are afraid to change and to then drive the adoption of new tools.
Change is scary.
I will add two things to that. I hardly agree. One is that this industry has generally been not compelled to be budget conscious in general. If you're big pharma, you had big revenue streams. If you were life sciences startups, a venture, you had enough capital that relative to everything else, your IT was not a big expense line. But most of you are still in my previous comments. That has changed, right? The cost consciousness. The other thing is, I used to work for IBM, and even before I worked for IBM, it was famously said, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. Remember that? Everybody's heard that, right? Yeah. I submit that especially in life sciences, this prevails in too many other industries as well, but I'm going to say this is a mindset that especially bedevils and plagues life sciences. Nobody ever got fired for buying and implementing Salesforce, no matter how much it cost and how bad the implementation was. Everybody who's in the C-suite, they all know that their colleagues did Salesforce, so nobody thinks it's a mistake, right?
It's like the new IBM.
Well, what other choice? Oh, it was too expensive. It went terribly, but that was your experience and your experience. So nobody thinks that there are legitimate alternatives, but there are, right? So So those would be two reasons that I would give.
We're a little bit in a paradigm shift, right? That this answer won't be, challenging maybe in a month from now or a year from now. So that's kind of up to us to spread this no code and the advantages, and maybe that paradigm shift will change. Interesting. Well, guys, we're talking about intelligent workflows, automation in life sciences. We've got a panel of expertise up here.